Hi everyone, and welcome back in part 2 of this section, which is translating programming language from human readable to computer readable. So far we have classified programming languages into two main categories, low level and high level, and we have mentioned that computers only understand low level language or machine code, while high level languages are more human friendly and readable than machine code. So we need a translator that translates our instructions from the high level language we could understand to the machine code that computers could understand. And we mentioned that in the computer world, the translator is called compiler or maybe called interpreter. And we ended the last video with the question, what is the difference between compiler and interpreter, and when to use a compiler and when to use an interpreter for translation to machine code language. And that leads us to a sub-classification of high-level language, where high-level language can be sub-classified according to the way they are translated to low-level language or machine code into compiled programming languages and interpreted programming languages, where compiled languages are sort of high-level languages that use a translator called the compiler to translate programmer instructions written in high-level language into instructions written in low-level language or machine code, so that computer could understand those instructions, where the file that contains the high-level language instructions written by the programmer is called source code file. So for example, suggest we have a source code file that has some instructions that tell the computer to do some tasks, as to print some words on the screen. So to translate that file into machine code, the source code file enters the compiler program, and the output of the compiler will be another file that's written in machine code, which is a low-level language, which now computer could understand. So if we take that file to a computer and run it, we could see the program output. That means the computer now understands it. But wait, will you run that program on Windows or Mac or Linux? Because it matters, where they are different platforms, where the term platform means operating system. So Windows operating system is a platform, Mac operating system is a platform, Android is a platform, and so on. And however, the machine code is the language that computers understand, but each computer operating system or platform has its own specifications that differ from other platforms. So for that reason, each platform will has its own program version that could deal with its unique specifications, but cannot with other platforms of different specifications. So for that reason, programs that translated from high-level language to machine code using compiler are called platform-dependent programs, since the machine code file that the compiler outputs will be targeted for a specific platform or operating system. But on the other hand, we have interpreted programming languages, where for interpreted languages, the translator is called interpreter, but it is a little bit different from compiler, so that instead of translating the source code file into another machine code file for a specific platform, each platform will has its own interpreter program that just takes in the source code file written in high-level language and translate or interpret the instructions in that file directly to the machine code. That's suitable for the computer current operating system or platform, so it could understand that machine code. Where interpreter acts as an instant translator or interpreter that translates the high-level language to low-level language specific for the current platform. So what's cool about interpreted language is that you don't have to care about compiling the source code to a machine code specific for each platform, but instead you only pass the same source code file written in high-level language to any platform, and each platform will has its own interpreter program that will translate or interpret the high-level language instructions into machine code immediately to the computer, a line by line, where the interpreter will first interpret the first line in the source code file to the computer into machine code and outputs the result, then move to the second line in the source code file and interprets it, then to the third line, and so on and so forth. But now there are a couple of disadvantages here. First, the interpreter program makes the interpretation process from source code to machine code every time the program runs, where that interpretation is done line by line as we see, and that makes the program run slowly if compared to the program made with compiled languages, where the compilation or the translation process from source code to machine code is done only once and then the machine code will run directly without translation anymore. And that's not the case with interpreter. And the second issue is that if you develop a program to a client in an interpreted language, that means you have to send the client the source code file to use, which is more human readable and hence human editable, which makes your source code public for everyone, and that's not a good thing. So to summarize, the program written using compiled languages run at high speed, since what runs on the computer is a file with already pre-translated or pre-compiled machine code, where the program runs directly as a whole. And also, what's cool here is that your source code is private, and what runs on client computer is the only unreadable machine code file. But what's not cool is that the program file only runs on one platform it was compiled for, either Windows or Mac or Android or any other platform, just one platform. But on the other hand, the program written using interpreted languages can run on any platform, since it runs through a program called interpreter, which will interpret to the computer in its own machine code language what's inside that source code file. So now you don't have to care about which platform will run your program, since any platform that has its own interpreter can run your program file. But what you pay in return is that now your source code file is public to anyone that runs your program on his computer. And also another disadvantage is the process of interpretation to computer is done line by line, which makes the program running slow if compared to those programs that are already pre-compiled or pre-translated to machine code. Okay, I think that's enough to start your Java programming journey. But I think you may have a question now. Is Java a compiled language or interpreted one? But let's answer that question in the next section. So see you.